The ocean was unusually calm at first, stretching endlessly under a heavy gray sky. Dark clouds gathered far on the horizon, moving slowly like something alive. In the middle of this vast sea sailed one of the most advanced cruise ships ever built, a Titanic-class giant designed to survive anything nature could throw at it. Thousands of passengers were on board, enjoying luxury, music, food, and the illusion of total safety. No one knew that beneath the surface, something ancient had begun to stir. Deep below the ship, far beyond where sunlight could reach, massive shapes moved through the cold water. They were not ordinary creatures. These were giant pythons, creatures thought to exist only in myths and forbidden research files. Over time, changes in ocean temperature and secret biological experiments had altered their growth, intelligence, and aggression. For years they remained hidden in deep trenches, but tonight, something had driven them upward. A sudden tremor shook the cruise ship. Glass rattled, drinks spilled. Passengers laughed nervously at first, assuming it was turbulence or a mechanical issue. Then the second udar came, stronger, violent enough to throw people off balance. Emergency alarms began to scream across the decks. Crew members rushed into action, trying to calm the passengers. The captain ordered an immediate systems check, but before any explanation could be given, a massive shadow passed beneath the ship. The ocean itself seemed to rise. Suddenly, water exploded upward as a gigantic serpent-like head broke through the surface. Its scales were dark and wet, reflecting flashes of lightning from the sky. Its eyes glowed with an eerie awareness. Screams erupted everywhere as people realized this was no illusion. The creature slammed its massive body against the ship's hull. Metal screamed as it bent under the pressure. The impact caused several decks to flood instantly. Panic spread like fire. People ran in every direction, shouting names, crying, praying. Then another shadow appeared, and another. There was not just one. Multiple giant pythons surfaced around the ship, circling it slowly, deliberately. Their movements were not random, they were coordinated. They reacted to sound, vibration, and motion. Every scream, every running footstep drew their attention. One of the creatures wrapped part of its enormous body around the side of the ship. The vessel tilted slightly, plates of steel groaned as if they were about to tear apart. The monster tightened its coils, testing the structure like a predator testing its prey. The captain gave the order to abandon ship. Lifeboats were lowered in chaos. Some people managed to climb in, while others were pulled back by fear or confusion. One small lifeboat finally dropped into the water carrying a handful of survivors, a journalist documenting the journey, a former Navy officer, a nurse, and two young couples. Their boat drifted away as waves pushed them farther from the ship. From a distance, they watched the nightmare unfold. On the deck, one of the giant pythons lifted nearly half its body out of the water and slammed down onto the upper levels. People scattered in terror. Lights flickered. Alarms howled. The ship began to lean heavily to one side. The Navy officer in the lifeboat whispered for everyone to stay completely quiet. He had noticed something terrifying but useful. The creatures reacted strongly to noise and movement. The smaller their presence, the safer they might be. The ocean around the lifeboat suddenly rippled. A massive shadow passed directly beneath them. The water bulged upward, and slowly, a giant python's head emerged just a few meters away. Its eyes locked onto the boat. Time seemed to stop. No one dared to breathe. The nurse clutched the children to her chest. The journalist kept recording with shaking hands, knowing this moment might never be believed. The creature tilted its head slightly, as if studying them. Then, in the distance, a thunderous crash echoed, part of the cruise ship collapsing into the sea. The sound was loud, violent, irresistible. The python turned instantly toward the noise and disappeared beneath the waves, racing back toward the larger target. That sound saved them. The lifeboat engine was started quietly, slowly, and then pushed forward with more speed as they created distance. Behind them, chaos continued. The massive cruise ship was now surrounded by giant coils. Water flooded its interior. Lights flickered and died one by one. Lightning tore across the sky, briefly illuminating the final moments. The ship leaned sharply, people clinging to railings, alarms screaming into the wind. Then, with a deep, echoing roar, the vessel broke apart and slipped beneath the surface, swallowed by the dark ocean. The sea grew strangely quiet. Hours later, as dawn approached, rescue helicopters and naval ships arrived after receiving a broken emergency signal. They found only debris, and one small lifeboat drifting silently. The survivors were pulled aboard, shaken and traumatized. When they told their story, officials listened in disbelief. Scientists, military officers, and government authorities classified the incident immediately. Publicly, the disaster was described as a rare and unexplained maritime accident. But internally, a different truth was recorded. Deep beneath the ocean, the giant pythons still lived. Smarter than before, stronger, aware of human machines, aware of noise, aware of prey, and somewhere in the endless dark water, they were still moving. Waiting, because the ocean never reveals all its secrets, and some disasters are only the beginning.